You are tuned into the Power Chord Hour right here on 107.9 WRFA, as well as the Power Chord Hour podcast, or maybe you're watching us on YouTube. Lots of ways to check this out. Actually, our first episode of the year. We are now back from break and coming back with a familiar face and familiar voice. We're kicking off the year with Chris Ballew of the Presidents of the United States of America. He has a new solo album out now, Truth and Dare. And if you follow the show, and I was just talking to Chris about this, a year ago today was the first time I interviewed him. Third time talking to him, and he's been releasing solo albums nonstop, 2 a year. So a lot to talk about with him. Chris, how are you doing?
I'm doing really pretty darn good. more up and down, which is super nice. Yeah. How are you?
I'm doing good. I've been looking forward to this. I mean, I've been listening to a new album and also jumping through your back catalog and all that. So listening to a lot of Chris Ballew lately, and just trying to get through the winter, letting the cold kind of end. Though it doesn't seem like it's doing it in Western New York right now. Everything's frozen over. So.
Yeah, it's not doing it in the Northwest either. We're in like a two week cold snap. It's not going to let up anytime soon. I don't mind it, frankly. I like the yin, the yang, the dark, the light, the positive, the negative. I mean, a lot of the music I'm working on now is about those kind of themes, like accepting and detaching from expectations. And I like the winter because it just makes the spring that much sweeter. So I'm a big fan of delayed gratification.
No, the last few winters, it's funny you say that because I've been thinking about that. The last few winters have been mild to the point where I can go have fires outside, like on Christmas. The one year I was outside having a fire, things like that, where we're not having those breaks now. So you're right. I'm thinking about it. I'm like, when the weather finally breaks, I'm going to love it. When I can finally go hiking and go get in the woods and just have the sun on my face. You're right. Like it's that delayed gratification, but it's going to be that much better.
Yeah, it's true. And, for me, being a guy who loves to be inside playing guitars, working on my songs in my studio, super cold and wet is a great excuse to do nothing but that. So
if I'm not mistaken, because you live on an island, right? Does that do anything? Like, do you get more snow or anything from where you're at, or does that not affect it?
No, I think actually we get less because we're near water, and the water in this region kind of makes it less likely that snow will stick like right next to the water. Not sure why that is, but yeah, lately this weird thing's been happening. I have this little app on my phone that shows, like a weather radar.
Oh,
so
yeah.
It'll show, and it's really useful because I've got 20 minutes. I can take a walk. Let me see if it's going to rain. And then you can see it actually unfolding on the app. But lately what happens is these big storms come in off the coast and they hit the mountains and then they just get to us and then they fall apart. So
that's pretty nice.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Like we were spared some of the worst of the winds that happened recently. And anyway, I don't know why that is and why it hasn't been like that forever, but it is like that now. And it's interestingly bizarre. At least I hope it's interestingly bizarre. Here we are talking about the weather.
we got new albums. We got the weather to talk about. I mean, there's just so much to get into here, which I guess we will start that. We'll get into some music here. And, like I said earlier in the intro, for people who don't know, you're releasing 2 solo records a year, quite an ambitious thing. Where are we now? I know you're a few years in. Like how many years into this project are we now?
Yeah, I know we're 8 albums in. Truth and Dare is album number 8.
Nice.
And I know that because actually I made a vinyl compilation out of the best songs or, most popular songs from the first 4. Now I'm ready to do it for the second 4. And I've got a partner who's going to help me with the vinyl thing. So that's in the works. But yeah, 8 albums. And, I'm looking at my song file here where all my sort of, songs in process live. And I've got 164. No, actually, no, that's not true. I've got 164 files, but that's half of that is the session files. So it's like 82. I've got 82 songs here that are bubbling.
Oh, right. Because that was my other thing I was going to ask you, and I think we've talked about this a little before, but like that was my thing is, knowing that you're going to do 2 albums a year, I'm like, do you ever get to the point where in your head you're like, maybe I should do an EP or something, but it doesn't sound like material. That's not an issue. You have more than enough material to fill this.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, not all the songs are good, but the way I work is I have this big batch of songs, 82 songs, and I'm constantly kind of just popping around listening to them and making little notes like, ooh, the bass needs to come up, or maybe the bass line needs to change. That happens a lot toward the end of the process. And so I'm just kind of, moving the faders on a variety of songs all the time. And then when it comes time, okay, I've got a month and a half now before a new album has to be given to my distributor. So then I start to look at, well, what songs are mature enough to be plucked from the vine? I kind of have to let them, sort of ripen on the vine, and then I can pick them and send them off with confidence. Generally, if I know I've got an album due in a month and a half or 2 months, any song written between that realization and that deadline will not make it on the record, because in working alone, I need time. I need time to realize whether this is a good idea, or if that's too much distortion, or if the drum beat is, if the drum pattern needs to be renovated or whatever. When I first write a song, I'm so excited about it. I'm like, it's going on the next record, which is due tomorrow or whatever. But inevitably, I pull myself back, and I'm very glad I did, because a lot of it is like a gut feeling, like, okay, this is a good song. And I have a few co-producers that I run my songs by when they're in their infancy stage, and they kind of help me weed out the winners and the losers, or I don't say losers. Pretty much every song I start gets finished somehow, whether that's, working with the original version all the way to the end, even though there's lots of problems and things are broken and weird. Or sometimes I just scrap the entire first version and do an entirely new version with new lyrics, new melodies, that kind of stuff. So anyway, point is, it's all in process all the time. I'm never making a record until I start sequencing and actually kind of making mixing decisions based on how the songs feel as a group. So yeah, I just scrape the cream off the top when it's time to make a record and release the best that I've got at the moment. And that's my methodology. And what's really fun about it is it's low pressure. I mean, it's low pressure anyway, because I'm not trying to take over the world or please a label or anything, but I tend to put pressure on myself, because I want these records, if I'm going to do them, I want them to be the best I can make them. Yeah. And so it's just a way to relieve pressure off myself, to not have that constant feeling of like, I'm making the record now. So it's a nice, I guess it's a little gift I give myself, that I get to make mistakes in the early part of recording. I like to, a lot of times when I'm working on a new song, there's too much distortion. There's too many guitars. There's too many vocals, just because I'm excited and I'm like, add this, add that, add this. And then inevitably later, it's this kind of like what Nancy Wilson from Heart coined the term. I think she coined the term. I have a mute party, which means you just start muting. Like, what can I get rid of? And then all of a sudden, there's the song, and it's breathing, and so it's a super fun process, and it just makes my day interesting. So that's where I'm at.
Now this idea, like the whole thing where, like you said, like right now, I mean, you have like, would you say like 82 songs and projects that you're working on, ideas and stuff, like, right now we're talking about, you're doing the 2 albums a year, but are you generally like that? Like in any given time of your career, are you that kind of guy where it's like, I have an array of songs just sitting around, you know what I mean? When it's like, hey, if I need 14 songs, that's not a problem. I got 50 over here. Like, I mean, are you always like that, or is this project made you write more?
Usually in the past, that wealth of backup material is in the form of fragments, not like fully realized songs, but I have thousands of fragments, and sometimes I call it raw poo, all my little like bits. I've always called it raw poo. My publishing company for the Presidents is Raw Poo Music. So all my little cassettes and micro cassettes back when I was, scrambling around in the 80s and 90s, it's like Raw Poo Volume 17 or whatever. So I've got Raw Poo, and that's really fun, because that creates a situation where I'm collaborating with my younger self, because I have all these weird, like, what I call sound on sound recordings, where I had 2 boom boxes. This was like 1981, something like that. I'd record on one boombox and then play it and record and play something in the room onto the second boombox and back and forth. And they just sound terrible. But this project I'm doing now, thematically and lyrically, I was sort of trying to do that in the 80s, but I didn't have the life experience or the self-awareness to know exactly what the themes were. But now I can go back and cherry pick stuff that sounds cool, but my, lyrics are terrible and my vocals are delivered as if I have an English accent. It's like I was really into the New Romantics, the Echo and the Bunnymen, ABC. Look of Love. What's that?
Some good stuff in there, though. Good.
Oh, yeah. No, nothing against them. I just saw them last couple of years ago and they were fantastic. But yeah, it's just, I was trying to do my own version of that stuff. But it is really fun to finish songs that I started stabbing at in the 80s is one of my joys of this project. It's really finally releasing that riff that I've loved since 1982 in a new form out into the world is super thrilling. But yeah, I thought recently about this whole fascination I have with having too many songs. I think it's a little bit of PTSD from being on a major label because, it's the classic first album takes your whole life. Second album takes a year because you've got to follow it up, You have
your whole life for that first album. And then, you have for the sophomore.
Yeah. Like that President's first album was really me cherry picking all these songs from different bands I was in I'd written them all, but I'd run them through different other brains to perform them. And so it was really just kind of compiling the strongest of that years and years and years of busking and playing in little bands and stuff. And yeah, the second record. So I didn't have one thing was I didn't know the formula for a President song. I didn't realize that it was this like friction between innocence and innuendo. And that's kind of where we really clicked. So I didn't know the chemistry of what I was trying to repeat. So that was really disorienting because I was like, it's like you put a monkey in a room with a blindfold and a canvas and a paintbrush and he paints a great painting and you're like, monkey, do that again. And the monkey's like, I'm blindfolded. I don't know how to do it again. So I guess maybe now I like to have way more songs than I need because I still want every album to be like the cream of the crop. And sometimes that just means writing a lot of mediocre songs.
You do good weeding them out because I got to say, again, for releasing, let's be honest, someone could release 2 albums a year and that could be your goal, but it doesn't, maybe one's stronger than the other. But really, you've done a good job at all of them feel like a full fleshed idea. It doesn't feel like, oh, Chris had an album coming up, July was, around the corner and he had to throw something together. Feel, they're great and not feel like they're full albums. Obviously they are, but I think you've done a good job. Whereas I feel like that could be an issue too. Like what you're saying, I get where it's like, ooh, I need more material. But then sometimes it's like the bands who it's like, we're going to do, a double album of something. And it's like, sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. With you, this worked, you're almost doing a double album every year.
That's true. I'm doing a double album every year. Oh my God, that's great. I love that. Because I've never made a double album and parts of me are like, I should do that. But then I'm kind of a OCD weird brain when it comes to presentation and album art. All the Casper albums have the same font, the same look. I love a set, and then this new stuff is all these black and white drawings. And I love the format I'm doing with the title and the name and stuff. So I don't want to do a double album because it's different. So I don't know why, but I think I love arcs. I love building up an arc, being on top and watching it crest and crash and then doing the next one. And so I like the albums to kind of be quickly identifiable, like, oh, those all go together. Right.
Well,
I also master them so that you should be able to make a compilation or listen to, sort of a playlist on Spotify or something. And they should sound like they belong together.
Flow into each other and go.
Yeah. I'm not trying to make each album like a unique perspective on the, on what I'm trying to do. I like them to be sort of like puzzle pieces.
Well, I like this idea for you. I think you might be in the best place possible for the double album, because if you want to go, I've never written a double album, you can, but honestly, if you want to be technical, again, you're almost like releasing a double album every year. So you can, if you want to lean into it, you can, but if you can also claim, I've never written a double album, I've never did that.
Maybe when it comes time to do the vinyl box set, I'll just do each pair of albums as a double album. Double album, double album, double album, double album. So yeah, I love that. You're right though. Like even the Beatles, I mean, "Don't Pass Me By" is possibly one of the worst songs that has ever existed. I hate that song. I hate it. And it's like 5 minutes long, and it's like sawing away on the violin. What the hell, man? So yeah, I love the Beatles, and even they kind of swing and a miss there. So
it happens. It happens. We were talking about the artwork on these, and I was going to ask you, because I mean, it is very Chris Ballew. Not only you're making the music, you're recording, producing and stuff, but you're doing the artwork. I don't know. Do you have any? I love the artwork for this one. Am I crazy? It almost reminds me of Lungs. Like, how would you describe what are you going for? I did this last time and asking you like Void Crusher, like what I saw versus what, you were going for. And like, I don't know. Can you describe a little what you're going? I love the album artwork.
Thank you. Sure. I appreciate that. Yeah. There was a little period there where I was pretty focused on drawing, and I had a few shows here on Vashon at this gallery, and sold a lot of work and did pretty well. And I was selling prints and mailing people prints of the work. I just decided after a while the process of making prints and filling orders got a little cumbersome, so I'm paused on that right now. But and not really drawing. It's funny, it comes in waves, like I'll get a wave of inspiration and be just like, I'm all about drawing, and then all of a sudden, then again an arc, and then it just arcs, and I'm like, okay, bye, see you next time. But yeah, as far as that image on Truth and Dare, I don't know. I really am generally not going for anything. I'll start with like, maybe I'll see a pattern. Like, I think that one is a pattern from a set of bed sheets that I saw in a magazine or something. And then I sort of moved away from the pattern and kind of pushed it and put these little dots on it. And and it ended up looking like Lungs, or I like that it's Truth and Dare. It's kind of like a choice between two things, and then you've got two different characters occupying the same body or lungs.
I never thought of that.
I'm generally as confused as anybody by my drawings. But at their best, what they really are for me is, so I do yoga and meditation, and when I'm doing that, and especially years ago when I first started doing that, when these albums kind of started to be a thing, and thematically and lyrically, I was looking at states of consciousness and existence and death, birth, attachment, all kinds of stuff. The drawings were sort of totems of states of mind that I would get to in yoga and meditation, like sort of a sense of floating outside my body, or various different kind of ways of existing that came up during those practices. And so I would come out of that state and draw a little sketch like, oh, it's like this, and there's a character here and a character here, and they're connected by this thing. So yeah, a lot of them are sort of reminders to me about states of mind that I would get into in those practices.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then I figured if I made a totem out of that state of mind, maybe somebody would see that totem and feel the implication of that state of mind or something, like maybe it's like I always felt way back in the day when I was making cassettes and selling them through Fact Sheet 5. I had a PO box, and I was, just making cassettes and selling them for $5 to whoever wrote me at my PO box from this Fact Sheet 5, which was like a zine for home tapers.
Oh, nice.
I always felt like songs were like little caps. I'd like take myself and my perspective and my mind and my ideas and put them in a little sonic capsule and like a cassette tape and send them out into the world, and then people would decode me at the other side.
You like that?
Yeah. And to me, that felt like a reason to do it, like to have an abstract connection with somebody that you've never met, and at that time especially would never meet because there was no social media or anything. So yeah, that's kind of where seed of desire to draw came from. So yeah, and I'm not doing a lot of good drawings in that exact style anymore, so I'm hoping I don't run out of drawings that fit the titles. I've got a stockpile, but that stockpile is huge. I've got maybe, I don't know, 180 of those drawings, so I should be okay.
It is, because in my mind, it's like I'm thinking of it, like same with the music, where it's like you're writing new music for these albums. It's like, yeah, I guess I'm not thinking of the pictures in past tense. It's almost like, oh, you're like drawing these as you're making the albums. So yeah, that's kind of interesting. But also how cool that they connect that way, that you're taking something that you might have drawn so long ago, and it fits with this piece of art that you made, this music that you made now. They still, they like they click together and they make sense and work together. That's really cool, actually.
Yeah, I agree. It is super cool. It's sort of evidence of general themes in being alive and interpreting the world, as both things that have names, like lamp, computer, guitars, and looking at them as things that don't have names, like weird balls of energy and stuff like that. So anyway, like playing around with different perceptions is something I brought to drawing and something I bring to music. So yeah, it's cool to find where they talk to each other when I'm pulling an album together, and I'm kind of like, well, what is the song? Because generally the title is also the first or the single from the album, and generally the first or second song. So the sequencing and choosing and then looking at the art and trying to find something that matches, it's a really symbiotic kind of tightrope walk. And then when it all clicks together, I'm like, yeah, that's it, but until I get that, yeah, that's it feeling, it's like, I got to keep looking, got to be trying, got to keep pushing things around. So yeah, it's fun. It's hard work actually, but it's really fun, hard work.
I feel like you talked about it a little bit there, and I mean, maybe we're talking more about the music, but like lyrically on Truth and Dare, are there any like themes and maybe you weren't like, consciously doing it, but like, do you feel like you were writing about anything specific or themes that kept popping up on Truth and Dare? Like, is there anything lyrically that you feel like there's, and I'm not saying it's like, a concept album or anything like that, but when you look back, are you like, geez, I seem to be writing a lot about this or that, on the songs on this album?
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm kind of looking at the playlist. In fact, you know what? I haven't listened to this record very much. I do this thing where I hand in the record to my distributor 3 months before the release date. And then for those 3 months, I don't listen to it at all. And then on the release date, I sit down with a nice pair of headphones and just listen to it. And it's great because I get to benefit from all my hard work in a way like I'm hearing it fresh. But then I did that listen with this, and then I just got so excited about new songs. I haven't listened to it again. So I'm kind of looking at the song Truth and Dare is old. It's from 1991. It was called Truth or Dare. And I think Truth and is more interesting, but, so that, yeah, I mean, look, Happily Haunted is kind of about my continuing relationship with people I love who have passed away, my parents and Mark Sandman from Morphine. Nice. Kind of an ongoing dialogue that I have with those people. Little Revolution, I'll just tell you what the songs are about real quick, and then we'll see if there's something, okay?
And actually, Little Revolution is one of my favorite songs on the album.
Oh, thanks. That's from a letter. I saw a documentary, and I don't remember the exact theme of the documentary, but I think it was about Bob Dylan and Joan Baez's relationship. And I think she was jailed at one point real briefly for a protest, being arrested at a protest. And she wrote a letter to Bob that said, nothing else matters except this, you and me and this little revolution. And I just loved that and turned it into a song. And it's kind of like this, you're doing this, because Bob Dylan, he's in the zeitgeist again with the movie and everything, but this was written before that came out. I don't know. He's just more of a acerbic, caustic character, and she's more of a loving, mothering, kind of beautiful character. And so it's kind of about that's why it's like you're doing this and you're doing that, and the opposites. So let's see. King of Fools is about Iggy Pop.
Oh, nice.
Yes, he really impressed me when we did one show with the Stooges in the Netherlands. It It was the only, we
I
flew
knew
to
you guys the Stooges. Jeez.
We flew to Europe to do one show. Now, listen, it was a festival show. So, it's like we were on earlier in the day, but we get to stand on the side of the stage and got to watch the Stooges do their thing up close. And this is when as many original members as were alive was in the band. Mike Watt was playing bass, which was fantastic. I got to catch up with him. I got real close to talking with Iggy about Qigong, which was like this breathing practice that I did and that he did. And every time he was asked how he did what he did at his age, he was like 45 minutes of Qigong every day. And I used to do it on tour, and my bandmates would make so much fun of me. And then I heard him say that, and I was like, look, guys, Iggy Pop does it, like, leave me alone. Anyway, I got real close to talking to him, but Mike basically said, band members can't bring people in to meet Iggy. It just would get too messy. And so, but I was 10 feet away from him talking about stuff. So yeah, it's just sort of also about the way that he is a god and a dork at the same time. He's like this rock and roll god machine. And then in between songs, he's like, hi, everybody, what's up? Blah, blah, blah. Just being a fool. And it's a compliment. It's not a criticism. It's like he's the king of fools. I love that dichotomy. Crush on Love. Crush on Love is about me having a crush on a girl back in middle school and just sort of doing nothing about it and becoming super comfortable with the end result of that crush being that I just have a crush and that I fall in love with the feeling of having a crush rather than falling in love with the girl. So it's a crush on love. Rejected is kind of about the pressure that any performer might feel to be vulnerable, to put themselves out there and be vulnerable to rejection. Yeah, that's basically it. It's kind of like the relationship between the performer and the audience. Like, I think in there, I changed it's like, I am the rejecter and you were the rejected, you were the rejecter and I am the rejected. So it's like this kind of back and forth. I guess there's kind of a back and forth thing, like a opposing forces thing going on. Truth and Dare. Yeah, there's opposing King of Fools, Crush on Love. Okay, so we're getting maybe something happening.
I like this.
Disintegration is just meant to give you a break from, I've been calling this music pop cosmic, and some songs lean more on the pop, some lean more on the cosmic. And sort of, I feel like after a dose of pop songcraft and energy, you need a little cosmic to kind of reset. So that's what this is. It's just basically a, last song, first side kind of thing. Nice. Like, let's chill it out before we flip the record over.
Wait, can I ask you not to like, kill your train of thought, but I ask this of people, and some people think I'm crazy and some don't. Do you still think of album? And it sounds like you do. I think of albums in side A and side B still. I still go like, do you think that way? Some people are like, I've talked to musicians go, I don't, maybe I thought that way in the 80s, but no, man, I don't see it like that. And I'm like, to me, I see all albums basically as a side A and side B, whether it's official or not.
Yeah, no, I absolutely do. And part of why I do as an artist is it's just another limitation or another sort of framework that I can use to kind of make sequencing easier in a way. Like, okay, I've got to put together a side one, and then how does that arc, and then how does it relate to side two? Like, one of the greatest side A to side B transitions is Abbey Road. She's so heavy, and then it cuts, and then it's doo-doo-doo-doo. Here Comes the Sun comes chiming in. That's brilliant. That to me is just gorgeous.
That's some good.
What's that?
That's some good sequencing. That's some good.
Yeah, really good sequencing. So that moment, sort of, whenever I'm doing an A/B, I think, maybe I'll end it mellow, and then the next side will start high energy, or it's just sort of I love limitations. That's why I played a 2-string in the Presidents and 3-string guitar, and just anything to kind of narrow the options is appreciated. So yeah, Disintegration is just sort of okay, bye side A. It's the opposite of the Abbey Road effect, I guess. But then we open up side B with Thirsty for an Avalanche, which is not a rocker. It's just kind of a groover. That's written about a movie I saw called Buried, about an avalanche that hit a ski resort and trapped the workers, some of the workers from the ski resort, in like a building that housed the mechanics for the chairlift. And one person survived, and it's her story. And she spent like days in a pocket under the snow, and they finally dug her out. And so I don't know. The story just kind of, I think I have, if I'm awake at night at 3 a.m, I have this terrible habit of feeling like I've been buried alive, like I'm in a coffin or something. Like my worst case scenario, my worst, like imagining is being buried alive. So it just struck a chord in me because that's like my phobia. So that's kind of what that's about. So she got out and she was fine. So
good.
Evaporate, I think, is just kind of a little bit of a hot and cold dichotomy. About it's just sort of an abstraction about sexual tension, I guess, or the kind of like passion between two people that's hot and cold, and people who are opposite who get together, and then like they off gas something. So pretty abstract actually, but feedback loop. I can't really remember hold on, I'm going to play it for 1 second. Oh yeah. Woo! Oh geez, I remember this song. Okay, this song started out to be about the Velvet Underground.
Oh fuck yeah.
I saw some doc where for a period, they went to LA for some reason. I can't remember why. But they were so down on LA and so like mad at LA and mad at the people. And, this documentary really painted a picture of the Velvet Underground of being just a bunch of assholes.
I mean, they don't, as much as I love the music, I don't know that they seemed like super chipper, happy people.
No, and that's fine. They can be assholes. It's absolutely fine. But so the song, God, what was it? It was sort of about, that's why there's lines in there. Like, I think there's some line about hanging out by the swimming pool in your leather pants or something. Cause I just imagine them all dressed like it's winter in New York, but they're at the, hotel by the pool, just sweating profusely. But it never, thematically, I can't remember what the chorus was before, but it had a chorus that just really wasn't working. And I just sort of took the music and wrote new lyrics. And frankly, I just can't remember what the hell I was trying to say with this one. I'd have to listen to it. I should have listened to this before we talked, but Cold Tarantula, I just thought sounded cool. I saw something on Instagram about this person had a tarantula and they needed to do some sort of medical procedure on it. So they made it cold so it couldn't move. And I just like the imagery of being cold and trapped. I guess it's an extension of the Avalanche theme. Cold and trapped. Burning So Bright. Oh man, the music for this song was a Raw Poo fragment for decades and decades, like from like 1992 up till a year before this record came out. And it never had words, but it had all the parts. It was one of those things when I sat down with a guitar, I would play that melody and those chords with no words to speak of. And so I just added this Burning So Bright, I don't know, about just feeling free of all attachments and stress and just feeling wide open, which is what I try to get at with my yoga and meditation practice. So it was just kind of an homage to achieving that, no matter how fleeting it can be. Genuine Fake Out. Oh, I love this song. This song's about Andy Warhol.
Nice.
So yeah, I had. So what have I covered? Iggy Pop, the Velvet Underground.
Now.
I really do love watching biographies, and then I get like supercharged to sort of capture somebody's story in a song, or that's one of the ways I write songs is hearing other people's stories. So anyway, I always had a kind of cold eye for Andy Warhol, or a cold shoulder, I guess. I always, without really investigating him or his life or how he came up or what he did before the soup cans and the Marilyn Monroe stuff, I kind of felt like he was a snarky kind of cool not in the sense of like laid back, but more cold, like a cold fish.
I definitely know what you're talking about.
Yeah, like a cold fish who was just trying. He was like the Sex Pistols of art. You know, he was just trying to piss on everything, which was the Sex Pistols' job, was to piss on everything, and then it was the Clash's job to say, okay, how do we rebuild? That's why those two bands work so well together. But yeah, he was more of a Sex Pistols than a Clash to me. But then I went to Pittsburgh and saw the Andy Warhol Museum, all 5 luscious floors of it, and I just like my perception of him just opened up. And then I came home and watched the Warhol Diaries on Netflix, and again, just like, wow, he is just like this really lovely, well-intentioned, amazingly talented artist who and a human who's just like so thirsty for love and safety and family. And part of why he did the factory was to have a family, but of course that doesn't replace a real loving relationship. So my heart just cracked for him, you know, just like opened up. And in the museum, there was a section of ad campaigns he had done for stores. And he did one for, I think it was Macy's, called Genuine Fakes, where it'd be like an elephant with tiger stripes or a giraffe with leopard print or whatever. And it was like, nice. It was kind of like the snake oil salesman at the circus kind of vibe, you know, like, come, step right up, see the lion elephant, you know, like, and I thought that was so encapsulated, like Genuine Fake really encapsulated him and my perception of him, how it changed and all that. So Genuine Fake Out is my love letter to Andy Warhol. And end of the story is just about death. Okay.
A happy note.
Yeah, I gotta, you know, it's a, you know, death is a big, it's a project, man, becoming cool with death. And in the process of trying to become cool with death, that theme just kind of sparks like little mantras or little like headline or song titles is what they are, but they're kind of like emotional headlines, you know, like, so anyway, that's what this is. It's just, and it felt perfect to put it at the end of the album. And it has sort of a tiny bit of a wink to the She's So Heavy, noisy buildup. At the end, I kind of made all this melodic string stuff crash into discordant backwards guitars and, you know, sort of like trying to be the Beatles when they were doing Tomorrow Never Knows with the tape loops and, you know, the noise, you know, just a little bit of that sprinkled in for my own edification. And there you have it.
There you have it. Truth and dare.
Yeah. I guess the end of the story would be the dichotomy would be life and death, right? You know, and then there's genuine and fake. So, and you think of tarantulas as hot, but they're cold. Evaporate is about hot and cold. Yeah. So yeah, there's a dichotomy theme. So thank you for letting me figure that out.
I like that. I like that. Well, I mean, I'll just keep you for a little longer, just a few more questions here for you. We're talking new music. I did want to talk a little bit. Obviously, this year will be 30 years of that First President's record. Yes. 30 years. That's why I think I've told you I'm 32. And I mean, that's one of the first things I ever remember. There's video of me somewhere singing Peaches very badly. But I mean, yeah, to think of that album. And, you know, I mean, I have questions, but I'll start with, I guess I'll put my like psychiatrist hat on and just go like, what does that conjure up when you think of that album, when you think of the recording and writing and just that part of your life, you know, that part of the band, like what does it conjure up, you know, your first thoughts of it when you're just thinking of that time in your life and time with the band and everything?
Yeah. Yeah. Just conjures up, the words that come to mind are just like simplicity, joy, freedom, free time. It was a really beautiful time because we needed each other to keep from being bored in a everybody in the same room kind of way. You know, I'm not against social media at all, but I just really cherish the fact that I got to have a band, because we were bored and because we wanted something to do on a Tuesday, and we put the work in and made this thing out of nothing, and really made it for other people. Like every time we were rehearsing songs or I was writing songs, we would keep in mind that this song isn't really the final product. The final product is the air in the room when we play the song. Like the elevation of the crowd is the art form. The song is just like a nail that we're driving with a hammer. So that it just reminds me of that idea, like that we were dedicated to other people's happiness and dedicated to our own happiness. And just, yeah, those are the things that I think about when I think about that time. And I love it. I'm so proud of what we did and what we achieved and what we, and the fact that we never made it, on the first record anyway, we never played these songs or worked on writing them with the thought that they would be, part of a global enterprise, part of a touring, successful rock band atmosphere. We just made them because they made us laugh and they made the people in the audience laugh. And I love that purity of intention and the fact that the album sold millions and millions of copies while we kept our integrity and our purpose intact. Later, I think having experienced that burst of fame and attention and all that on the subsequent records, although they really are still us being silly for the sake of being silly, there was also this pressure, like this kind of like to repeat and to establish ourselves, and I could tell that would never stop. It would just be every record would be a pressurized situation, and it didn't appeal to me really. So when my son was born in 97, that was kind of my reason, but it wasn't really like, it was my excuse, but it wasn't my reason to move on. But so anyway, that album, the first album, really just captures that purity of intention that I love.
Just that, we've talked a little bit about your like influence and stuff. I don't think we've ever talked about, are you at all, because I think of that first record, like, I don't know, are you influenced or were you a fan of the Violent Femmes at all? Because to me, the first President's record is the same reason why the first Femmes record is so good. Because like you're talking about, I don't feel like they wrote like Blister in the Sun with the intention of, like everyone's going to love this. It's such a pure, beautiful record. It's weird, it's quirky, but it's like, there's all the good things in there, but it just feels genuine. Like genuine's a word I'd use for the first President's record too, where it's just like, I know it sold a lot, but none of those songs feel like, yeah, we're a hit machine. Let's go in and this is the radio hit and we placed this here for this. Like, it doesn't feel like that. And I feel like the same reasons why I love that first Violent Femmes record is the same reason why I love that first President's record. Yeah, no, I loved the Violent Femmes. When I was in high school, they played in Portland at La Luna, which doesn't exist anymore, but and me and my buddy Dale drove all the way down to see them and just had a fantastic time. They're so good. I think Presidents played with them in like 2004 at in Boston on Lansdowne Street, which is by the stadium, the baseball stadium there. Yeah. So, and they were still great. They were fantastic. So yeah, there's definitely a connection there. There's also like just thematically that like dorks with sexual tension. Yeah. It's kind of like a common denominator between us and them. So you said something earlier where like, and I didn't think about that part, but you were saying like the innocence and innuendo. And I didn't really I wasn't thinking about it earlier, but yeah, like listen to like Give Me the Car or like something like that, or some of those Violent Femmes songs where, yeah, it's the same thing where, the innuendo, it's innocent, but it's the innuendo is there too, but I like it. It toes the line so well. Yes. I think both of you toe that line very nicely. Yeah. Yeah. It's a magical balancing act for sure. And then when I did music for little kids as Casper Babypants for 12 years, I just took the innuendo outer shell off and had just the innocent core. And so that was the engine for that. It was the same engine as the President's, just minus the innuendo. Now, was that an easy because that too, like, is that an easy transition? Because obviously another huge part of your career is the Casper Babypants thing. And it's like, to go from that. Yeah, not like the presidents wrote dirty songs or anything, but yeah, like you're saying, the innuendo and stuff, it doesn't sound like it was hard to just be like, I'll just take that part out. I'll go a little more in column B now instead of doing, a little bit of both.
Yeah, it was a fantastic moment when I figured out, because for about 15 years, from the time the presidents really started, for about 10 or 15 years, I was like, there's something else I'm supposed to be doing. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. And I would experiment here and there and start bands and break up bands and collaborations. And then finally I got more and more acoustic and realized, oh, it's kids music. It's the innocent core of the presidents is all I need, really. So it was kind of like a long process of it finding me, really. So it was, once I figured it out, then it was during the Casper phase when I did get a hold of my process in a way that I could repeat things. That was another case of like writing way too many songs, because I knew why I was writing them. I knew what the palette was. I knew what the perspective was. And so when I get the palette, perspective, and purpose lined up, the 3 Ps, that's when the songs just go pizzang, and just like fly out of me. But with the presidents, I didn't quite have a clear focus on those 3 Ps. Like it was more like something that was happening to me, and I was like holding on for dear life. So, yeah.
That's the other thing. The perspective of that, I'm sure is different too. I mean, being in the middle of being in a successful band versus having some time to like look back at it, I'm sure perspective and thoughts on things are very different. I can't, in the middle of it when everything's going on versus when it's like, oh, now I can like sit down and look at it and remove myself maybe a little bit.
Yeah, and we really got that opportunity when we broke up for 5 years, between 98 and 2003. And then when we did that second chapter, we got to feel that while still doing the band.
Oh, that's
it was awesome because we got to feel proud of it. I always say like that second phase from 2003 to 2015, we were the best President's cover band ever.
I like that. Well, just one more for you, kind of going back to that is you as a musician, going back to that first President's record to now, what do you think, in terms of your songwriting and your approach to writing music, what do you think's the same and what do you think's different? Like from how you approach an album now to then 30 years in between, what's the same and what's different?
Wow. Not much is the same, really. Back then I was working with other people and really relying on other people and being in a band. Now I am firmly a solo. I do not like collaboration at all. I like, it takes like these days songs come in weird little fragments. Like, okay, here's a little chord progression or here's a word or two, and they don't seem related. And then maybe over time, wait a minute, these are supposed to be together. And then I'll see something that makes me synthesize them. So it's very intuitive these days. And I feel like I'm a satellite dish just open to the fragments falling from the universe into my mind. Whereas with the Presidents, it was like, oh, 2 little spiders driving a car. That's funny. Let me paint that picture for the audience to decode and see in their minds, which is something I learned from Beck when I saw Beck with an acoustic guitar by himself in 93 or 4. His songs made movies go off in my head. And I was like, oh yeah, I want to do that. I want to focus on that. So these days it's more, my lyrics are more like abstract, shambly poetry, and before they were more storytelling. I was working with people. Now I'm solo. It was more storytelling, and now it's more abstract. The other thing is, like in the band in the beginning, it was really like painting with primary colors: guitar, drums, really. And now I'm painting with every color you can imagine, like symphonic elements, country, groovy stuff, noisy stuff, distortion, synthesizers, everything that I've worked with my whole life, I'm pouring into this thing now. So yeah, really not a lot of, and we used to play live and tour, and this stuff I'm not touring at all on purpose. I'm really trying to make this more of like, this is built to be a headphone interior solo experience. So yeah, really nothing.
totally different. You know what? That's not bad. We're supposed to change. I mean, maybe that's not a bad thing. Maybe it'd be worse if you're like, I'm the same, nothing's different. I've never taken any musical chances. Like, maybe it's a good thing that you don't feel it, that you have like a different musical identity now or whatever,
I think it is. I mean, I think it's honest. I'm not saying other people that stick with the same thing their whole careers aren't honest. Maybe that is honest for them because that's what they want. But for me to be honest about, I like to be honest when I notice the arc crashing and say, okay, I'm going to let it go. In between Casper and what I'm doing now, there was a 9-month gap where I did nothing productive. I played music every day, but I didn't try to write songs or push anything. I just stayed wide open to whatever was next because Casper had arced and this new sound came out of that silence. So I think it's productive and beneficial and honest to be different and just, I'm different. I'm going to be 60 in May. So, and I was 30 when we got signed. So that's a different me.
Well, no, I'm a fan of current you as well. I'm a fan of 30-year-old you and 50-year-old you and 60-year-old. I'll probably be a fan of 100-year-old you.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what the next arc is. I'm really firmly writing this one now, and it's barely starting to go down. But yeah, I don't know what it's going to be, man, but it's going to be something.
Well, I'm sure we'll have you back on to talk about that whenever the next arc happens or just the next album. But where do we send people now the plugging? Where should we send people for the album? Where do we find you online? All of that.
Well, I know the kids aren't really using websites these days, but chrisballew.org is a good hub for everything. There's also stuff on that website that you can't get anywhere else, and it's free. You can download it if you want. There's all this whole genre I did called Sampleadelic. I put out a bunch of records when I was into DJ culture and 2 turntables and no microphone. There's old stuff like cassette tapes that Dave Dieterer from The Presidents and I made back in the 80s. There's all kinds of weird stuff you can get there, along with lyric videos and downloads for free of the new albums. And my artwork is up there for your perusal. So that's really the best place to start. And then, of course, wherever you stream or steal music, just use my name.
Well, nice. I mean, anything else as we close this out? We're closing out the interview, but if they're listening to the radio show, they'll now hear the album, and we've talked about all the songs, and now they'll hear all those songs. So
you're gonna play the whole album?
The radio show's 3 hours. We'll play the whole dang album. Yeah, they'll get the whole. The podcast doesn't. The podcast, you need to go get this album, but the radio show, they're gonna hear this whole thing. Any closing remarks?
I got to tune in because, like I said, I haven't listened to it.
Hey, I got a radio show for you, Chris.
Yeah, I could hear what it sounds like on the radio. Actually, after we finish this, I think I might just give this record a spin.
Give it a listen. You're going to the dentist, right? Go give it a listen while you're going to the dentist.
Yeah, I just went to the dentist yesterday, though. Missed it. I don't know. In closing, just like, I feel this sensation of freedom and pressure removed that I hope every creative person could experience. It's fantastic if you can find your center in the now and not worry too much about anyone else's opinion, as long as you are honoring what you're trying to do as much as you can. Like, don't shy away from the work. I find myself, if I'm like, this mix is great and there's a little something that I need to fix, part of me is like, leave it. And then I'm like, nope, I'm going to make this. I like to make music that is generously harmonious, like I'm not going to hurt you. So anyway, don't shy away from the hard work. Have a great time. And I just discovered this incredible performer that I'm just going to plug because I'm super in love with this person. Vienna is the name. So go on Instagram and look up Vienna, a song called God Save the Queens. Amazing. They blame us, or put the blame on us, or something like that. This person is doing kind of what I'm doing, but they've turned the compression and the noise up to 1,000, which is not my bag. But it's, boy, if you want to have a explosive pop itch scratched, Vienna.
I like that. Well, there you go. You got Vienna to check out, as well as the new Chris Ballew record, Truth and Dare. So go give that a listen. If you're listening to the radio show, you'll hear it now. But yeah, I'm Anthony Merchant talking to Chris Ballew right here on the Power Chord Hour.
Woo!